Good afternoon. We start our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center. And now we're going to speak about six Global Ukrainians Forum, biggest assembly of Ukrainians abroad. Mykhailo Ratushnyi, head of Ukrainian Universe Coordination Council. Roksolana Stojko-Lozynska, representative of Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. And Dudko, he is the representative of Ukrainian community in Russian. Welcome on stage. Good afternoon, dear friends, journalists, those who watch us online. Thank you for this opportunity that was provided by Ukraine Crisis Media Center to address the public. And now the Union of Ukrainians in Russia is banned, and my colleague Roksolana came yesterday here, and each year we gather to hold a forum. And this tradition was started on the first anniversary of our independence. It was in 1991, and the initiative started after Ukraine became independent. In Palace of Ukraine, 5,000 people of Ukrainian origin hold a meeting, and each 5 years we gather here in Kiev, and this year this will be the sixth forum of Ukrainians, and according to our registration, 55 countries will be represented, and we wait for more than 300 delegates, and the forum will be on the 20th and 21st of August this year, and this will be in the European Square in Ukrainian House. There will be journalists invited, guests. These are the representatives of NGO from Ukraine, and also we invited President, Prime Minister, and the representatives of the Supreme Council of Ukraine, deputies, but mostly this Global Ukrainian Forum is aimed to support Ukrainians to solve those issues that are we face now, and about 15 or 20 million of Ukrainians live now abroad. Now, Ms. Lozynska, continue.
Would you please describe that ideas, that thoughts, that mood that prevails among Ukrainian diaspora in the United States? We have this year from the United States one of the biggest delegations, members from the Congress, members from the trade unions. Also from Russia, we will have a big delegation. In Russia, we have 2 million of Russian citizens who ethnically call them Ukrainians. In the United States, we have 1.5 million of ethnical Ukrainians. And shoulder to shoulder with us, we will have representatives of the biggest diaspora groups of Ukrainians in the world. Thank you. Mykhailo, thank you for this introduction. First of all, I would like to express deep thanks and deep admiration with the fact that for the first time we will meet here in Ukraine after the Revolution of Dignity. For us, this is a moving moment. For this is the very important thing. In order to explain our attitude to the Global Ukrainian Forum and to the global Ukrainism, so to say. I should start with this statement that this movement has a very profound meaning. I think that diaspora can considerably assist to the development of Ukraine. And we can play a big role. We were founders of the Global Ukrainian movement. We were among the organizers and founders of the first forum, Global Forum of Ukrainians. Our objective as the Union of Ukrainians in the United States is to not just to preserve the Ukrainian identity in the United States, but also to assist Ukraine to develop and to flourish and to find its place in the world, namely its political, its cultural, its political place in the world. At the very beginning, we had a strong delegation which supported cultural events like Червона Ruta, festival production of movies. We supported production of movies. We supported development of history. We supported development of literature. Also, we promoted investments to Ukraine. We looked for investors and enrolled them. Also, we expressed our political support. From the very beginning, for us, it was very important to see that Ukraine is respected around the world and that Ukraine is taken into account in global political context. Our relations with the Washington are very strong. Sometimes they are rather controversial, but nevertheless, we try to overcome the approach when Ukraine quite often is seen via the prism of Russian vision. We managed to stop this negative trend, and currently Washington perceives Ukraine directly from Ukrainian from directive Ukrainian vision. Also, we have in the Department of State, we have some friends in the White House. I think we should seek for better support from the White House, and we continue our work with them. Also, we supported and lobbied very much such a draft, such a bill as Ukrainian Freedom Support Act, which was passed, and this support from the American diaspora is very strong, and we will continue to do this. Here in the forum, we will negotiate with our friends from all around the world about further cooperation. Quite often we coordinate a lot of actions, a lot of events, rallies, manifestations, all sorts of events which are held in global scale in support of Ukraine. Thank you, Taras. Would you please add? Good morning, good afternoon. I'm a representative of the Ukrainian community in Russia. I am Taras Dudko. I am very grateful for invitation and for giving me an opportunity to come to this forum, to my motherland, to Kiev, to Ukraine. The situation of Ukrainian diaspora in Russia is not easy, is not simple, and it is even tough, I should say. The mass media in Russia insistently build up the image of Ukrainian as nothing. They present Ukrainians as a sort of Russians who are just aligned with Ukraine. Moreover, mass media in Russia disseminate and cultivate a hatred to Ukraine, to Ukrainian culture, to Ukrainian history. We all understand that now the war is raged, the war which was started by Russian Federation, headed by international criminal Putin. I call him a criminal as he is called by all those people in the world who understand what actually he is doing, what forces he bring in, what evil things he commits, and we clearly understand that he presents a lot of lie to the humanity. He brings war and he brings a lot of evil. He admires the war. He had ruined the relations which were good, that good neighbor relations which Ukraine had with Russia and Russia had with Ukraine. Actually, in this attempt of hatred to everything Ukrainian, he ruins that very good relations that these two nations had during ages, and but we are not afraid of him. We were born in a holy land. I believe that we have a strong faith in the God's commands, and we are ready to live in line with His commandments. You might heard that in Russia they ruined Ukrainian library. They had closed it. They convicted the director of that library. They tried to destroy Ukrainian culture in Russian Federation, and we clearly understand how much Ukraine contributed to the development of Russian Federation, and before that to the development of Russian Empire. We borrowed them, our philosophers, our writers, our thinkers, our artists, cinema artists, etc. But all that positive ties have been ruined. They had mass media are overwhelmed with hatred towards everything Ukrainian. These are perpetrators from Ukrainian nationality, which do this in Russia. When Dovzhenko once said that Ukraine was a waste dump of Europe. He meant the Russians and the Bolsheviks who turned Ukraine into a land where millions were massacred, where land was destroyed, polluted, and people were terrified and intimidated. I think that international court should bring those people to responsibility. We cannot develop in a situation of hatred to people, and our northern neighbors one day will inevitably collapse with this bulk of hatred. Please 2-3 minutes more, and then we will reserve time for questions and answers. Now the questions. Mykhailo, will you please explain more about the program of this Congress, about the schedule, who will participate in discussions, the topics to be raised, etc. We have prepared the press release. During the first plenary session, we expect to discuss the problem how to preserve national identity. The second discussion issue will be about scholarships and Ukrainian studies abroad, and we will award teachers from Canada, from Norway with the prizes for teaching children in Ukrainian studies, and Ms. Lila Grinevich, Minister of Culture, will award this. Then we will have the clergy discussion. The discussion of religious issues was initiated by the Greek Catholic Church in Ukraine, by Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Kiev Patriarchy, and of the Protestant churches in Ukraine. When we hear the sound of weapons, we nevertheless have a broad representation from foreign Ukrainians, and this is actually a bright demonstration that they are not scared. We expect to have Marko Poslavsky, who on August 19th, 2014, who rescued his fellow combatants in Ilovaisk on a small bridge, defending their retreat. Also, I would like to mention another foreign Ukrainian who gave his life also in a circling in Ilovaisk, defending his compatriots. We scheduled our Congress for the eve of 25th anniversary of independence. I think it's very symbolic, because when it was impossible to speak about independence here in Ukrainian land, that was Ukrainian diaspora which expressed this willingness, the strive for independence on behalf of Ukrainian people. We expect to have President Poroshenko and leaders of Ukrainian foreign diasporas, they will come together, and this will be a good chance to develop a plan what to do further. Unfortunately, Ukrainians in Russia are persecuted, and we should and we have to do something with this. Unfortunately, many Russian Ukrainians rejected to attend the Congress because they were warned by FSB not to come. And I think we should do something in response. We should support them. And despite this fact, we have one of the biggest delegations from Russia. Okay. There is a press release with one small misprint, so you can read. Whether you plan to develop some sort of resolution, some sort of roadmap, do you plan to, what do you plan to do by the next Congress of Ukrainians? Currently, we are finalizing the round map which we will disseminate among Congress participants for approval. The main message will be as follows, that Ukrainians in Ukraine and Ukrainians abroad are both parts of one united nation, and in times of war and military struggle and counteraction, the diaspora can be a huge resource. I see Ms. Magbagamol is here in this room, and who is head of the Parliamentary Healthcare Committee. We can mention Ms. Ulyana Suprun, who is now active Minister of Health, who 2 years ago arrived on behalf of the Congress of Ukrainians just to assist Ukraine. We can mention Ms. Natalia Yareska, who worked as Minister of Finance. In this context, we may recollect Canada's Peace Corps, which was created for promotion of Ukrainian values. I think we should create similarly the Ukrainian Peace Corps, arriving here and supporting. I believe that instead of Georgian, Lithuanian rescue rangers coming to implement reforms, we may think about involving our Ukrainians from diaspora who are very much keen to contribute to the development of Ukraine. I believe that the president will hear us. Can I add? Of course, Mykhailo recollected Ulyana. Ulyana is my very good friend. Marko Poslavsky, whom he mentioned and who was killed in Ilovaisk. Natalia Yareska. I mentioned these names. We were born in the United States. We are the second, the third, the fourth generation of Ukrainian migrants to the United States. We were brought up in Ukrainian spirit, and coming back to Ukraine for the first time in our life, we come back to Ukraine. How we were brought up, during all our lives, we were imposed the idea that we should help Ukraine. This September, in the Congress, we will try to organizationally structure our assistance. We have a lot of people who already work in Ukraine, even in Odessa Oblast, which is very much Russian speaking. But we would like to have an opportunity to bring to Ukraine those people who were brought up outside Ukraine and have a valuable experience of work in Western institutions. We have a lot of professional people in Baltic countries. At the very beginning of their independence, they invited very actively the representatives of Baltic diaspora around the globe. We are ready to provide similar assistance to Ukraine. We are ready to assist at each step. We have high-positioned managers in corporations, in the governmental institutions. They do good job there, and they can do good job here in Ukraine. I'm happy that we will discuss these things here in Ukraine. We have time just for one more question. Mykhailo, I'm from NATSA Information Agency. Minister of Foreign Affairs Pavlo Klimkin cancelled two consulates in Prashev and in Slovakia and Romania, and instead of this, he opened a special department to overcome anti-Semitism in Ukraine. What is the position of Ukrainian diaspora brought to these steps? And the second issue, the second question towards Ms. Roksolana, how do you perceive or assess the anti-Ukrainian statements of one of the presidential candidates, and whom Ukrainian diaspora will support during elections? Thank you for raising this question. Besides Suceava and Prashev, our consulate in Brest was closed in Kazakhstan. Yesterday, I met with the Ukrainian delegation in Kazakhstan, which already arrived. For 3 years, we do not have an ambassador in Kazakhstan. This is in the country where we have 300,000 Ukrainians who reside in Kazakhstan permanently. I do not understand this to the very to the very end. I spoke to Mr. Klimkin several times, and I do not see the point here. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the main agency, main state agency to cooperate with Ukrainians residing abroad, and the legislation provides for such a governmental body, but it is not functional. When Minister Deschita was in position, he had established the ministry, a unit in the ministry on communications with Ukrainians abroad. Now this department is not very active. When top officials come to the United States, to Canada, he finds time to meet Ukrainian diaspora there. But in Romania, in Kazakhstan, in Slovakia, the president finds no time to meet diaspora, and we would like to mention this to the president. We do not have state program even for 5 years. The ministry has to, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has to develop it. As one official in the ministry said to me, we will cooperate with, via Skype and internet with diaspora. That's our position, that this program should be developed, it should be in place. We point out to these issues to Klimkin. I think that references to the lack of money are not true, because people abroad clearly see that some money, that a lot of money goes offshore. And much money are wasted for luxury, while we do not have money for such important things as national identity. Mykhailo mentioned that during visit to the United States, the president meets with the Ukrainian diaspora. I should say that we contributed a lot of effort to organize that meetings. The president does not meet eagerly with the Ukrainian diaspora in Eastern Europe and also in the United States, and not very often he eagerly participates in discussion. As for the American elections, the Ukrainians Committee of the United States is an NGO which cannot officially support or not support the candidates. That's why we act via networking. We have Ukrainian Democrats, we have Ukrainian Republicans. That's understandable that officially we cannot support any party. And nevertheless, an executive board of our organizations tries to organize meetings with all the presidential candidates and their teams. We had meetings with the team of Mr. Trump and with the team of Ms. Clinton, and we communicated our vision of the strategy in terms of Eastern Europe, Ukraine and Russia. We expressed our attitude towards Russian war against Ukraine. We presented our vision of the corruption in Ukraine. We expressed our attitude towards support to Ukraine on behalf of America. Quite often we have sharp discussions. As for Mr. Trump, when Mr. Trump made such a foolish anti-Ukrainian statement, we immediately issued very controversial statement against this. We applied to Mr. Contraford and to Sam Clowes, his close counterparts. Sam Clowes used to be a professor in the Eastern Europe history. We discussed that issue with Mr. Clowes, and we expressed our shock, we expressed our deep disappointment, and we heard that Mr. Trump did not wish to offend us, but we disseminated information about our meetings with Mr. Trump's team members and expressed our concerns and allow people to make decision whom to support. You know that Ukrainians are smart people. They will do right choice, I think. With this, we will finalize our press conference. Thank you for coming. Thank you for disseminating information. You can always count for us in this big business. Let's make family photo. Thank you.
Має бути по суті. Так. Так. А чого?